person that says aye.
Hello, iPhone.
All right, so we are, let's call the May 6th regular meeting of the Northern Planning Commission to order. And we'll record that all members are present. And that is potentially one member of the public or not to the bench. And nobody here present except for us. So today's meeting should be pretty straightforward. We have a few sets of minutes to approve. And then one last time we can revisit the discussion we started and tabled last month about priorities for 2024 and 2025. So I will begin with Chair's update. Once again, welcome Ralph to our table. It seems like this has been dragging on for 3 months now. You're finally here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, well, we're really happy to have you. So I'm glad you're here to dig in. The only other update I have is I don't have current news about 230 Haverford. I was away last week. Before I left, I was told that there is no calendar for vote in its council's business meeting. However, the council's information meeting was canceled last week, and so therefore there's no presentation. So I don't really have any, I think, fresh news about whether there'll be a presentation or vote in May or June or whatever. So I can't offer news. I did bring the drawings. We are enjoying from discussing that. Once we adjourn, we can discuss them. We can open them up and take a look and see what we've got. I actually have it open. That's all I have to report. Tim, do you have anything that you'd like to report?
No new updates. We had the steering committee meeting the only real update is we had the steering committee lunch and learn.
Which steering committee?
For active transportation.
Yeah.
So we just made a quick presentation, kind of where the survey results fell on. And we're using that right now to develop an initial network for both pedestrian and bicycle within Harvard and Lower Merion. And then we did one final bit of survey-ish public outreach on Saturday at Harvard Day.
Okay.
It was fun and very wet, but we got the last bits.
In that order.
Hmm?
In that order.
Yes. And then big thing that we were trying to get from there is with Lower Merion High School's recent walk zone discussion. We use that as a kind of a point to identify certain areas within Harvard and the surrounding zone that could also seek specific improvement that maybe weren't identified when the survey went out, because the survey went out
Before they made that
decision. So
is there a way we can learn about the survey finding?
yes, I need to email all of you the PDF of it. So we had to do a report.
Okay.
So
Is there anything high level surprising finding you'd like to share with us?
lots of people have issues with Montgomery Avenue. Lots of people have issues with Lancaster Avenue. Lots of that. Those are your big two issues. These are two major roads that run through the two communities and have high volumes, but also are major crossing points and major points of commerce. So, and then also hold several educational facilities. So it all kind of coalesces around maybe we should kind of be focusing on these. So
When you look at the data, you feel like Narberth was adequately represented?
I would say perhaps some would say overly represented.
No such thing.
The Narberth zip code was the largest respondent. So that includes Narberth and obviously Penn Valley.
Right.
But Narberth turned out and provided some good results. And there's a lot of Narberth centric data that we did get. And like I said, a lot of it comes down to Montgomery. So.
Do you have any questions about the active transportation study, continuance and survey and findings?
What are you gonna do with it?
The eventuality will be, so we're using the survey right now to develop like an initial network. Then we're gonna go to the steering committee and discuss it with them, how they feel about it. In addition to that network, we're going to be doing, different, sets of a toolkit of recommendations. And then bring that to the steering committee as well to kind of mull over and figure out, are there any changes that need to be kind of made before we go to public engagement again regarding a proposed network and proposed policies. And then once we have those, the idea would be create a final plan, create some nice imagery to go with that final plan, and in some cases, like specific design layouts for certain key areas. And then submit them to both the borough and the township for their approval. And basically from there, use that as an encouragement for implementation.
Would that all be done in-house?
That would
Any
be,
potential plans or anything?
so any implementation would be up to how they implement would be up to the borough and the township, but in a part of the document will be, here's how to access money for it. We're both of us are contract community, both the borough and the township are contract communities, so MCPC will help as far as it can. But in certain cases, like there might be some other level of partnership between the two, if there's some larger projects that both borough and the township wants to get. So.
Cool. So it seems like this would dovetail with the traffic calming priorities that are on the list of things to talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna be identifying areas for traffic calming, and the idea is to look at a lot of the more, already developed walkable spaces and figure out how to enact traffic calming in there as part of the active transportation. But this could also be something that what is in the, recommendations or future recommendations for tonight could also be something more detailed and more, because this is going to be, we really do want, if I had my way, I'd do every single street and over a line and be like, this is what should go here, this is what, but the capacity that we have in MCPC is not so large that we can go line by line of each street. So we're going to make recommendations based on context and the active transportation plan. But if we want to do something more detailed, we could allocate the capacity for that for our, if we decide to take that path.
Yeah, question. What's the timeframe for,
We're hoping for end of year. So,
okay.
Which would make it like, it started in, it was supposed to be a year and a half, but because we extended out the survey, it stretched it a bit more, but we got a lot of good results from that extension of the survey. So the whole project ended up being about 2 years.
Well, it seemed to me the two, at least two ways the borough could support the ideas is, for example, if we had this plan in place and these potential projects in place, when somebody wanted to do a land development, and we could say, well, the intersection's been flagged as a place for a new crosswalk or something, would you consider that would help us immensely. Also, I don't know what the borough's practice right now is for capital planning. I know that when Matt West was assistant borough manager, he was working really hard to set up a capital budget and capital planning management system for the borough. Since we work on a fiscal year basis, a calendar year basis, it would be great to have ideas for borough council to consider for its budget. If there's a capital budget, I have no clue what the status of our capital budget is, but I guess they start talking about that in October or so. So there's a way to telegraph the ideas you have, so the council can consider them for next year. That would be great. If there are any that. Aside from grants, those are two kinds of resources the borough could tap into. So it'd be useful. All right, well, we wish you success and pray that you will move in all due haste. Oh, the other thing is, I think it'd be great for the planning commission to have a chance to kind of see the recommendation areas as they're shaping up, so that we might flag areas, ask you to consider them, or correlate them to things we're seeing in terms of potential land developments or something.
Alright.
Well, thank you, Tim. Alright, so if there's no other announcements or updates, we can move on to the approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. We have minutes from March 4th, which were passed out right before the last month's meeting, and which I also circulated again the other day. We have minutes from last month's meeting, which we passed out late yesterday. So let's start with March. I guess first thing I'll do is ask for a motion. If anyone would like to make a motion to approve the minutes. No one wants to.
I so moved
Okay, Jim.
with a comment that it was a hell of a meeting. And, there was a lot of meat in the meeting. And I think you did a good job of capturing all that. When I first looked at it, I thought, wait a minute, I don't have enough ink in my printer to print whatever, 12 pages or whatever it is. But it was all there. Thank you.
It felt necessary to provide detail on that specific meeting.
Good job.
Is there a second?
Well, can I make, also?
Well, after we put it on the table, then we can make,
Oh, I thought that was before the second.
it's chilling randomly. Alright. So there's some weird-
Then I'll make a second.
We'll have a chance to comment. Okay. Are there any comments, corrections, additions?
I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
So on page 9, next, after you summarize next steps, I'm doing this more for, just to clarify what the hard review includes. Because I couldn't quite read how it's written. I'm not sure it made any sense. And if anyone's gonna read this in the future, it might just be good to clarify, that, Chair Bressi outlined what the hard review includes. And you said material reviews, which subsequently we realized is not under the hard. So I did put in parentheses, since determined not under hard purview. But then, just to clarify, that photo documentation of the existing buildings and as demolition proceeds. And the reason I think it's important to state this is because I don't think the applicant understood what was being requested. So as demolition proceeds is recommended by the Harbor for Council's consideration and direction to the applicant. I would just do it that way.
We have an amendment. Any other comments or?
Well, the Harbor has an obligation to make a determination as to whether the proposed development is compatible with the environments, as I understand it.
As part of its CMA?
Yeah. On the occasion of the our meeting, the applicant made no presentation, was not prepared to make a presentation, had no material samples to offer. And the subject of a presentation never came up. It was all about, let's move on to the demolition.
Mhm.
And that swayed the process of that meeting in a direction that I think was not what it should have been. I was present and I could have objected to it, but was, for reasons I cannot explain, did not intervene in that process. So we never had the discussion with the applicant about compatibility with the environs. And I think that is a miscarriage. I'm gonna later on propose that we go back and have that discussion with the Harbor, because we never had it. And we should, if only to be historically complete.
So that's just sort of an observation. That's not really a proposal to the minutes.
No,
Because I think that,
I'm getting my oar in early.
okay. as a master boatsman, you know exactly what to do with your oars.
Yes, can,
Okay, and I Heidi, that clarification sounds fine to me, which is fine with everyone else, they would object to it. Okay. With that in mind, all in favor of approving the amendment as presented by Jennifer, as amended by Heidi. Aye.
fine.
Ralph, you may wonder, like, why we do this, but in cases where we have those kinds of meetings with applicants, we try to actually have a pretty thorough documentation meeting, not a cursory documentation. Turns out, we almost always go back to those notes. Sometime later in the process to remember what we decided and recommended. It's useful, and we also think that when we're discussing things with applicants, it's important as a matter of public record to document what we discuss with them, because nowhere else can the community find this kind of discussions. I've been told that's not necessary for minutes, but I kind of feel like it's important for us to do our work, and it's important for public transparency to show our work. So,
Well, there's a video record as well.
right.
Right, but I do think the notes are very helpful. I read through them, I felt like I was there.
All right, maybe we should do something in e-ticket.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to the April minutes. Is there a motion to approve the April minutes?
I so moved.
Here's a second. Okay, are there any comments, corrections, clarifications that anyone would like to suggest to the April minutes? Okay, all in favor of approving the April minutes as presented by Jennifer? Any opposed? Okay, so the agreement, and I will add, as we always must, we have great gratitude to Jennifer for taking and doing it so thoroughly. It's important to our business to have these records correct. And I will transmit these over to the road. Shortly. Okay, so let's move on then to our only agenda item, future planning. I guess future planning is, obviously we're on it, I suppose, but the plan is good. And we've talked about this a few times in past meetings. I don't think we've talked about it this year, but we talked about it at one meeting. I think in January we talked about it this year. Check the minutes. Again, the background of this is there's a couple of things which precipitate this. We're in a year where we have a new council, we have new council leadership, and not new council leadership, we have continuing council leadership, but we have at least 3 new council members, 4 or 5 if you go back a year. So we have a lot of new council members. We also have a good number of new planning commission members, especially we have 3 new planning commission members this year. We also have a new contract with Montgomery County Planning Commission to be our planning consultant. So it seems like it's a great time. We have new blood on council, new blood on the planning commission. Consultant is teed up to start good work for us to assess and to recommend to council what we think is important. If you're laughing at the air conditioning.
How about there was a plane taking?
Oh, sure. Train going by. Please take it off. Is that?
Rain.
Hey. It's like reverted. Stage. So,
At least it works.
You know, it's better than that.
This is him, after all my, exploring conversation about the gross capital budget, the main achievement of the gross capital budget is the best to do agencies. Probably the streets. So if everyone just use your outside. Anyway, with all those new things at the table, it seemed to make sense to make our recommendations to council about the matters we think are most important. After several conversations, we boiled it down to these 7. We've talked about them pretty thoroughly. With Tim's help, we synthesized them and listed goals and outputs. The goals would be, why would we do this? Or what are we hoping to grass? The outputs would be like, what are the kinds of things this way that could result in? Not policy wise, but more about like putting choices on the table and things like that. In any case, I was told by the borough manager it would be useful for us to go through these and prioritize these. Flag things that we felt merited special council attention in terms of things that council might need to do to tee them up. And also to flag things that we felt would be really good topics, or important topics for us to get help from the Public Government Committee Commission on in its technical systems role. So hopefully we can discuss those things and then I can send a report off to council about that. I was told by the borough manager that it is on council's agenda and it's this meeting to discuss this topic. So our input will be time. That I'll turn it over to conversation. I think that probably would be good to get a sense of what people think the priorities should be. I know it's hard, it's like an apples and oranges list, but it would still be good to get your sense of what are the most urgent issues, and then maybe we can then revisit them and talk about considerations for Montgomery County Planning Commission or council. So, I don't want to like force a vote right now, but maybe we can just go around the table, folks can mention tasks they think are the ones that are the most important to be focusing on over the next 2 years, because that's the end of the council term. Then we have new ones. But they just call up people, volunteers, table, whatever works.
I'll start. I actually think downtown business development is number one. Especially in light of the 230 Hanover project. You know, we've kind of beaten design to death, but at this point, the businesses that go into that project are probably the most important to look at, as well as the businesses. Opportunities. And we've talked about having a Main Street manager or something like that, and I think if the borough would consider contracting with a consultant to assist, that would be really helpful. I mean, you know, we were all missing businesses that were there. Bottom line,
So we're missing.
the businesses that were there that had to move out. And especially, you know, in light of the new construction and what the rents might be, if there's any way to help new businesses move in, whether it's financial help. I mean, Montgomery County has some programs, I believe, for assisting. I think we met with some of your business development team who said that they might have some
I have
help.
a few tools, but I don't know if they have that extensive, but I can double check on.
Or they knew of opportunities. If it's not through the county, at least there were some entities that, you know, for opportunities. So that's number one for me, but I'm not done. I think number two is Montgomery Avenue. Another business district, but also very unsightly and unsafe thoroughfare. And then if I was to do number three, I'd say recodifying the code, zoning code, so it's easier to understand and navigate.
Thank you. Okay, you just picked the easiest one.
The ones that we got and go.
Okay, go ahead, we'd like to get next.
Yeah, well, just to go around, I suppose, but I did my own list in order and jump on the bandwagon, but also downtown business development was my first. And that's not just with what's coming, but you know, what's almost done, you know, filling those spaces as well. But you know, making sure that there is a life downtown that we're kind of accustomed to, that there's vibrancy. And you know, I think it's great that there's going to be a lot more residents. Hopefully that drives business, but that's no guarantee. you know, everyone's getting things delivered there. So, so certainly that was the top of my list. My second was other than Haverford Avenue 5A planning, and that is because I think, there's probably some properties in that area that are also ripe for new development. And in light of, you know, although I think the Elm was successful, you know, it's quite large and it would, something similar to that would probably be kind of a big deal, you know, so anyway, I think, and I don't know enough detail around it, but there's some properties in there that are kind of ripe for new development, and I think would probably cause a lot of interest in the community. And then also my third would be Montgomery Avenue planning. I live nearby, and you know, it's a racetrack, that's one thing, and then it's, you know, it's not the kind of, it's very hard to imagine what you can do so far gone, but you know, business development there and some improvements would be something to aspire to, I suppose.
Jim, what do you think?
A third vote for downtown business development. We have recommended on several occasions, and I shouldn't say numerous, but multiple occasions, we have recommended to the council that they take steps to get professional help in bringing businesses consequence into the downtown. And I think we should say it again, maybe even louder this time, because we're not going to survive long term with little mom and shop shops. Not going to be a successful business environment. As Heidi said, we all miss the businesses we've lost that were mainstays of culture of the community, and they're gone. And you can really tell that they're gone. Coupled with the pandemic, it just was a huge kick in the Dutch lifestyle in work. So that is number one by my estimation. Now, I don't know how you go about doing it. There are consultants that the borough can engage to help with that. There are business planning consultants who do that for a living, and they're expensive. And we've heard how expensive they are several times. It has no reason. No, we just paid $1 million for a park, which is going to be lovely, but the park isn't going to keep Narberth alive. The business community is going to keep Narberth alive. I think you gotta spend some money there. We did, borough. So that's number one. Traffic calming in general is a subject I don't know anything about. But I know when I'm in danger crossing streets, and we are in danger. My daughter lives over on the corner of Woodside and Wynwood Road, where traffic is supposed to be 40 miles an hour or something or other. Well, it's 60 miles, 60. And there are, I don't know what the rate of accidents is there. I've never actually seen one, but it came close to being one on a visit to her little girls. And something needs to be done there. That's going to require policing by Lower Merion, who I remember when we were negotiating the three Elmwood business a couple of years ago. There was statements being made about how the traffic is under control, but it's not. It's just, and that's a hideously dangerous place in Montgomery Avenue, where I'm approximate I hear it at night, it's Jackson. That's probably a policing matter. I don't know how else to attempt to control it. But I think the borough needs to weigh in, with the township about that. It wasn't nice.
Yeah, I would agree, make it a fourth for small businesses attracting retail in the downtown. Just the heart of Norbert, so I think that's probably where we could get more technical assistance. And then the rest of them are really difficult as far as prioritizing, because I like them all. You know, it hit on, some of it is just the cost benefit analysis on what the ten can do, right? So, and the biggest bang for the buck, but I like the traffic calming, like I would love it if Mark was a little bit more walking community, walking, biking, safer overall. I do think we need to do a little bit more focus on the 5A, make it more consistent there. And then activate and ensure my recovery, you know, happening. So this would be kind of my probably big three. Or the probably on the technical side of even zoning. So I'd be interested to hear from Tim actually all these too,
I got three there, and I got 5A. I think probably might get your this one.
small business, I think people.
I'll I have three that are kind of related away. Downtown business development, 5A planning areas, and actually, with the affordable housing. I kind of see them slightly linked. Because all of them will require a thinking through, well, all of them will require some degree of thinking through how development occurs. Some of them will require thinking of other things too. There are other ways to talk about housing and so. But I think it's important to do that because, you know, it's the same planning when construction industry is down, that's the type of plan. So people are waiting in the wings. You're busy trying to drum up business for the construction industry that's back.
Architecture.
Yeah. So I think we have kind of a really slight window to maybe look at where in the borough we think development could occur and how to kind of shape it to our housing. What's the right mix of commercial, residential, and the 5A surrounding areas. And, you know, as long as those buildings aren't built there in 230, we still have an opportunity to think about, you know, the maybe ways to think about retail mix. And so I think that I see those all together if they capture the upside of development. If the development applications come in and we're not ready, and we've lost generation. I'm deeply interested in traffic calming and reclassification. So I have to say, those three that I was first are extremely fun. Let you go last. That's okay. So then,
So I think for me, I question how much the planning commission can do for the business development. Like we can provide a recommendation, I think it's really a critical topic for council to consider, but how much can we actually do as a commission? And so for me, it was more of a, I saw it as recodification, but then under that was reviewing Montgomery and the 5A and affordable housing, because all of those need to be reviewed while you're doing recodification. If you're gonna review the zoning code in order to make it more consolidated, I would say, and to ensure that there's no items that are contradictory, that's also the time to review large-scale development opportunities within the borough to ensure that you're including any revisions necessary. The last thing we would want to do is recodify and then take a step to the side and have a conversation about affordability and realize that we actually have to change 3 sections of the code to make it make sense. They kind of have to run in parallel. And so to me, I think that they all kind of fall under a recodification of the zoning code. Affordability is a little bit of a priority sweet spot for me. It's what I do for work, so it's a little bit of a priority. But I can see opportunities within Montgomery Ave and the 5A district to provide that within. As an aside, I've had a number of clients approach me about wanting to come speak to us and to educate the commission on affordability versus affordable housing and how our review of the zoning code can have implications on the development of those types of housing structures.
One thing I'll just say about recodification is, one way of looking at that is that it should just be policy neutral. There should just be a reorganization of what's there. And that should put us in a better position to talk about the changes that maybe could happen. I guess currently, but it's sort of a structural issue. It's we remember when we looked at 119. In terms of what, you mentioned that to me in email, what I'd encourage is, I think, I don't know, planning commission would be interested in having an informational presentation, but I also think, that Michael Dundee is very interested in this, and it may.
He keeps running into my clients who then call me and say, council member from Narberth just approached me and
Anyway, so you may ask him, if he feels council would be interested in such information. And if so, is it better for an informational meeting council? I think we'd all benefit hearing about the things that you're learning.
he and I have had preliminary conversations about it, and I know he was taking it back to council. One thought was to do a separate session for both to do it jointly. And there's Penrose Development Group, who's based in the city, but actually most of their senior leadership lives in Ardmore and Wynwood and Narberth. They are very interested in coming to present Narberth specific numbers for us to be able to dissect and review as we proceed, if we proceed with that topic of conversation. So they'll customize a report for us based on income levels, cost of housing, cost of living, and show how that translates in affordability versus affordable housing.
Okay, just follow up with like, good, it would be great. One or another thing, opportunity to learn.
And I do think that plays into considerations of Montgomery Avenue and the 5A outside of Harvard Avenue, as we consider scale of development, density of development, size of lots. So I see the merit of doing recodification separate and then doing the informational exploration and other topics and then bringing it back to the table for changes to the code. But to me, looking at it holistically.
Okay. I'm glad you have those resources to come up with. Thank you.
I agree with everyone. All excellent points. Actually, though, I do like, I do agree with Jennifer's points, and then I think that I'm sympathetic to the idea of the downtown, business district being a critical issue for both the identity of the town and its livability. I just sort of wondering who would do.
Bring it to the top of the pile is what we can do. If it's our number one recommendation in writing in response to an outright request from the council for our opinion, they'll have a harder time ignoring it the way they have for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I believe that I say it again, I believe that the economic vitality of the downtown is the key thing to make this place, to make this town work. And if the council decides to ignore it for any longer, we're gonna lose a battle. So the power here is really just to say it in loud voice. There's nothing we can do about it, practically speaking, beyond everyone's expertise anyway, much. But we can pound the table.
Fair to say that that's a priority topic that we feel that we as the commission are putting to council to make a priority on their end, but then
Yeah,
our priorities of things that we can make a difference on.
things that we can
Changes
deliberate
to,
is.
right, is our, everyone's priority numbers 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah,
Well, wait, report that says that, but I would like to answer your question directly. And by the way, I keep getting asked, I made a few extra copies of this for now, but it's.
I'll take one.
I'll send one. Sorry for that awkward, sort of there. So I haven't been the outcomes column, some of the things, again, planning commission can't do this on its own, but more highly related, perhaps things that MCPC could help with, or a consultant could help with, is to is take out and look at real estate development scenarios for how different combinations of financing and land subdivision and so forth could potentially be directed to the applicant's rule.
I'm sorry?
Real estate development scenarios, sorry, that could look at how different combinations of financing or land assemblage or could,
so I mean,
and then also there are other implementation tools. Well, business development, and again, those are things that are beyond us necessarily, but those are things that a real estate oriented downtown management consultant would look at.
Yeah.
An example is we have something called the Narberth Development, Industrial Development Fund, which is able to issue low interest debt, right, which it can use to stimulate economic development. If the NIDA was to invest in one of these properties, could that rate down retail lands? I don't know, but those are the kinds of questions this person will get.
and that we would stay involved with that process. Seems like it makes sense, rather than just leaving it all to council to run that person.
Yeah, I just made that up, but that, I made it up, because I don't know how these things work, but there could be other scenarios. I mean, the fact is, boroughs like Narberth don't really have the same kind of tools that municipalities in other states that we're not state that gives a lot of help, but there might be other techniques. There might be different kinds of business development or recruitment strategies that are more proactive. That we just haven't tried. So those are the kinds of things that may be done. Again, we don't do that around this table, but broken hearts can do this. So those are some. Anyway, Jennifer, that's a good idea. We could. Well, look, before we talk about that, Tim, what are your thoughts about developments? See, like at the library.
Yeah, well, this is like quarter shelves. My thing, and I'm very much in the council here, failing is affordable housing should be a top tier priority. Narberth ranks usually in the top 5 most expensive municipalities to move into, and then when you do buy per square foot, it is the most expensive. I think $10 Lower American, $320 something. That's a lot of money, particularly for what once or what kind of was like the working class neighborhood on the main line. So, and how we go about that, there's several separate methods, and when I'm saying affordable housing, I'm using capital A affordable housing, which is your subsidized, and your lowercase a affordable housing, which is your actually occurring. like affordable housing that you see in the smaller apartments and in the older apartments in and around. How to encourage that, but also keep pressures. And the big thing to understand with it though is that Narberth is not large enough to really move the dial of a real estate market. And we should acknowledge that from the get-go, but it still can be a leader and a example of, we know that we're not gonna be able to move it by ourselves, but at least we're trying to do something. What are you all of our neighbors, what are you all doing?
We have one neighbor next week.
Well, I mean, people compare themselves to Narberth, like other boroughs and other similar places. At least being some kind of leader in that realm, I think, do well to help Narberth. And then there's also several state laws that are currently moving through the legislature, which vary on different degrees, one of which is just creating a plan to calculate how much housing you have, what are you doing to improve that situation, and then another is saying, you cannot have a larger maximum lot than 1,400 square feet, and your minimum height cannot be lower than shorts. Bill 1126, if you wanna look it up. So essentially, it's varying right now at the state level as well, because because both Pennsylvania and the nation at large are picking up on the issue of housing affordability, and everybody's trying to find as many different methods as possible to solve it. So it's a difficult task, but like I said, it's the thing that Narberth can do is really neat, and that's all we can really ask about it. Then number two, I would probably put on business redevelopment or development, because I walked around here because I'm doing a report on Wednesday regarding the contract. And a part of that was pictures, and I'm taking pictures. It's just very quiet, and it's a very nice day out. And like I said, there are several places that are closed because Monday is usually your close day for food businesses, but it just felt very quiet with the exception of the tavern and Big Mill.
Everybody was at Walmart.
It'd be good to see more, like, on days like this where it is very nice. It's humid, but not super sunny. Wondering why is there not more activity? And then Montgomery Avenue would be the big one, because that's gonna be a big planning effort, because that will be a joint planning effort with Lower Merion and it will most likely be a continuation of the active transportation plan. Mainly because Lower Merion is the owner of the road. So that means, but Narberth has Narberth's only real ability is to control its side of the road in terms of land use regulations and dimension standards. And partnering with Lower Merion to make sure that what's happening on one side kind of mirrors the other, I think be something that the planning commission could definitely be a big driving force. And then the number 4 would kind of be the recodification, the zoning, kind of to make it look more and more like a form-based. My big thing would be making it look more and more like the common form-based code that you find in other communities that have form-based codes, where it's more, I don't want to say a picture book, but it feels like it's a very, that you could print it out and it's very readable and everything flows. And I think that's what's the intent of the recodification. It's kind of better flow.
Well, the intent of the recodification is put things that logically belong together.
And then,
And there's just leftover conflicts because amendments were passed at different times. So, say anything about form-based codes. Many of them are written in places that aren't looked at, and that's something they look pretty. We're trying to impose a form-based code on a place that's already built. So ours is always going to be a little. We built to imagine we retrofit. The intent at the beginning was to be more visual, and probably the visuals haven't kept up with things, but
Should have seen what we had before.
I've read it, it's on a bookshelf. First thing I saw on my first day was that it was just like sitting on a bookshelf, or as I walked into the kitchen.
It's a lot more visual than it was then.
Tim, is there a way to analyze affordability of Lower Marion at a more granular level? Saying that Harvard is so much more expensive.
I mean, we could, there's definitely a variation in Lower Marion different sections. We probably plug in, is it, the affordability is based on home sales. And cumulative home sales over a period of time, and because Narberth is smaller than Lower Marion, you're going to see fewer homes for sale and homes sold. So what I did was I normalized it for per square foot to kind of bring it more to par, because if I took a median home price in Narberth compared to a median home price in Lower Marion, Narberth might end up much either higher or just like a little low, just because of how but just how large the sample is. But we could definitely do it by zip code, but we'd have to probably figure out a way to delineate the samples.
Could you come up with a custom grid and geocode to that grid or something, address date?
I like it.
Because I just, that you mentioned that a lot of this is to provide a leadership role. Staff against our nearby areas of Lower Marion, and they have responsibility in tier 2, and then all the points about Montgomery Avenue, it's like it's got to be 50-50 with Lower Marion, so we need to participate here.
I was just told that Lower Marion is shifting to prioritize affordable housing and affordability. I'm not sure specifically what, but I heard last night that we should consider talking to them to find out what they're reviewing or.
they have a few virtuals. I
They do.
do not understand.
Yeah.
I just see that written up.
I also had a planning commissioner from Swarthmore reach out. Because apparently they use Narberth as a identifier of a small jurisdiction that's doing it well. To which I kind of chuckled a little bit and said like, well, we're making it a priority because we feel like we're not doing it well. And she is very interested in seeing if there's ways that maybe Swarthmore and Narberth could have a collaborative conversation or utilize joint resources in order to have a similar conversation without both small boroughs having to pay if we were to pay for it.
Seems like new houses that are based on tear downs would skew the numbers, because those go for twice as much as what existing houses go for. And there's been a lot of that lately, so anyway, that's my take on why the numbers also may be a little bit skewed, because there's been a fair bit of that.
Councilmember Giardini and I discussed, his big sticking point is the fact that we allow for larger lot sizes. And so there have been a number of properties where it was like 2 lots torn down or one smaller house on a large lot torn down. And the zoning code allowed for a larger development, but if the code was written in a way that had smaller maximum lot sizes, then you would be forced to maintain smaller new construction. So while the new construction will always be more expensive than the existing, it naturally drives down the price of some of the existing just by scale.
But I think Michael might have been sort of going for, wouldn't it be better to have 3 1,500 square foot houses instead of one
Right.
4,500 square foot house?
That is what you.
Right.
Um,
That's kind of embedded in the affordable housing issue, is how do you drive more towards small scale development? And, it's a tricky issue, because you pull the sweater one way, and you have yourself, then it creates a problem. So that that's why it says analysis of zoning code features that result in large houses, is what I think that'd be one of the places to look. It would also look at, zoning code features that disincentivize developing 2 units in a building, which Michael believes are certain parts in our code that just wait, you know what I mean? So there's a whole host of zoning fixes as well as development strategies. So it's a whole range of things that would be in that.
Yeah.
I think with, personally, I think any kind of collaborative exploration is great. The thing about Lower Merion is, because it surrounds us, it's a possibility, just like we share a school district, that we could share a work housing tools. That big problem we have with our scales, we can't really develop a management tool to finance. Our zoning tools are not very meaningful or pace we know. So we pool, all of a sudden we're in the same pool as the actor, then all of a sudden you have some better. Anyway, those are all good topics for discussion. But it sounds to me like where we're heading is downtown business development, where like actual kind of retail mix is, I think, as it has been in the past, a very high priority and passion for us, recognizing that it's not something that ultimately the planning commission would be as close to, because it involves other things than zoning, which is land, which is the main thing we would do. Like, requires certain kinds of actions that maybe the borough council would need to initiate, if that would support or be involved. And so it lives, as Jennifer was saying, in the kind of classic zone. And then there are some related, again, as I said, there's sort of somewhat related about the beach has its own affordable housing, recovery out there. And the collar around productive downtown are all, looking at future development patterns, really, in those areas. And that could overlap with affordable housing or any of the issues. Those kind of seem to be the second tier. Then traffic calming, though, I think everyone walks around and concerned about it. Didn't necessarily seem to be as important for the moment. It decides to do sidewalk campaigns. It's interesting. When we did this exercise like 6 or 8 months ago, that came out just about everywhere. But I keep going down. There's like only 2 that we have, right? And so,
the traffic calming could be an adjunct from the transportation.
we're working on that. And then recodification is a sidebar. It's kind of could occur or
But
not.
I sort of support Jennifer's point that if we're gonna invest in the recodification, I know you said policy neutral, that's valid. But if we wanted to tweak the code, then be done when we re-adopt.
Sure, that's true. Yeah.
Could we review the recodification before submitting for adoption? Take the time to then review any of the other priority topics in conjunction with it? Could we run things in parallel instead of one at a time? So you're still reviewing the recodification as an independent effort, and then once you feel that you have the organization accurate, before you put it to council for final approval, take the time to review based on any of the other.
We could stage I think this is all speculation, but the way it actually lives on the ordinance would be kind of up to council's reading, or what would be easiest to get with word, China. Since we don't even know what we're talking about. You guys.
Affordable housing is near to my heart too, but I just think it is a much longer, thoughtful process as opposed to the downtown retail or small business and some of the other things. So would it be fair to kind of maybe prioritize things in the short-term priorities and longer term, or maybe maybe the question is, if you helped us on Montgomery Avenue versus affordable housing, and what does sort of the timeline look like from your perspective? more resources, we start going in that path, but can we run in parallel? Can you, what does it look like?
So Montgomery Avenue is probably not gonna come until after the act presentation. That much is pretty much, that much is to be set in stone because we're going to be acknowledging Montgomery Avenue in the act transportation plan and part of that will likely be some early maybe recommendations with the way the street is lined up, with the way the street is and the way the land use is adjacent to the street. And from there, we can then produce, just a discussion about how we want to, manage that zone and then figure out ways to link up with Florida Meridian. Because, like I said, we're already working jointly with Florida Meridian Act presentation plan. This would just be a continuation of kind of working with them but I think at that point, we could probably actually get the commissions to start to interact with each other. Just so they're be the driving forces. So, like I said, not mirroring across the street. If you want to develop something on Norwood side, you can develop on the Lower Merion side. It's going to look very similar, and it'll be that's kind of what we're aiming for.
So there may be certain infrastructure that are able. So Aaron, I think, what I'm hearing you say is like, you think that, so Montgomery Avenue is different from all the others, because it's all kind of this. It's not something we can, in fact, most of the opportunity lies at the other side.
Well,
Right.
yeah,
You know,
some of it does.
Well, not all, right? But most of it does. It's probably more opportunity and Staples maybe says. But be that as it may, it's a multi-municipal endeavor, right? And so it requires a different staging than anything else. And so that I think it's a kind of hopeful comment you're making that maybe, the whole promise that to get Montgomery Avenue to get the borough's priorities and the township's priorities to line up. For us, Montgomery Avenue is a huge deal, right? But for Lower Merion, it's like probably that whole stretch is, just sort of a leftover place, right?
Yes, yeah, we be hard work.
Right. It's very far, they planned for all those areas, but in Gladway, it's gonna have to be, so it's probably not real high up, and so if you're right, the collaboration on this active transportation study might lay the groundwork for the collaboration. And look, we have the obvious help because it is central to active transportation. No pressure to just get that word commissioner on board. That's really, what's the word commissioner over there?
I don't know off the top of my head, but the big thing is that both communities are contract units.
Yeah.
So there's already a level of collaboration at that level, and then taking I think encourage. And also we have a lot of commissions that have lived in the Lower Merion and
Yeah, but again, let's face it, it depends on what the word conditions one. I know that like in the few conversations I've had with Chris last week, he says it's years away all the time.
We never,
He is concerned about Woodward Road and the Woodward Shopping Center in St. Charles, which is also on our board. Anyway, it's different, so it moves at its own pace. The other two, though, affordable housing and infill housing, all those things. In the 5A planning areas, it's where the roads control. Road decided on site. But so those maybe are separate. Right. It's slightly separate.
sorry, which ones?
Well, looking at infill affordable housing and looking at the 5A area planning areas around the edges of 5A, those are more.
You're complaining that affordable housing in the street classification.
No, I'm saying the affordable housing, that topic, and the 5A district, other than Hampton, that topic are both topics that the borough can pretty much
Yeah, but so I think the affordable housing piece, I think we should identify what remaining development opportunities exist, including under tweaks to the zoning code, right, for additional housing. To the point, because the borough is largely built out, but so there's like, you know, what could you do? And it may be that Montgomery Avenue is a location you could develop as well as the downtown and and I like density downtown, it's also near the train station, but and as far as Lower Merion, I mean, and attracting attention, I think the Inquirer had an article this weekend, was it, that Jillian Dirks was quoted on City Avenue, maybe it was this past week, on the fact that they're adding a lot of housing to the City Avenue zone. And it talked about their sort of strategy for mixed use and rebalancing the portfolios. It wasn't just commercials in office in particular, so how they're adapting to closing retail. But yeah, it's like, you know, the impression you get is they're sort of operating in large scale suburban development. It's more like King and Prussia, right? Whereas the Narberth and Wynwood area is this fine grained parcels. So I think we need to get the attention of the state of Boston.
I'm sorry, we need to get the attention of.
Well, I mean, I think we'll see how the Adam Rosenberg project at the Rite Aid turns out, right? But you know, why not more of that? Why not bigger? Right? But like to try to get an affordable component to it.
Well, that's what we're looking at. I mean, I think you're right, looking at affordable housing. Look at a lot of things, it says right here, affordable housing and site analysis. Small scale infill mixed use, so. I mean, like when we did the Fort-based code 10 years ago, how did we start? We did like 10 sites, right? And we studied them. Now, how would you build this site out? What would fit here? So that, and then from that, we began to think about how to build code, right? Affordable housing, you might people say, well, what, you know, Rite Aid's gonna fall, so what would happen on that side? What would happen on the Citizen Bank side?
Well, see, the system.
So that would be one methodology.
In terms of the zoning map, like the 5A, the bank parcel is two zoning,
Right, so that's a really interesting question.
like zone for a single family part of it, so.
That's why it's an interesting question.
I will say that, Michael Galdini has done a significant amount of research on this and is prepared to jump in to have the highly technical conversations with planning commission. Should we make that a priority topic? He has brought, we've had a few conversations just preliminarily on his overarching review. And then the second is the two clients that approached me about participating in this conversation have, they both work with jurisdictions where we recommend codes, and do the comprehensive analysis as to what works for them as a development group to come in. So they, one group has helped rewrite the codes in Westchester and Doylestown in order to make it more approachable for affordable housing with restrictions. So I think Doylestown was restricted, so you could get density bonuses and height bonuses, but only for senior affordable, and it had to be a certain set percentage of the units. And then Westchester's was a height bonus, but they required mixed income. And so we could just start that conversation by reviewing our own deep depth research into it and site reviews, but then also have outside organizations who do this every day kind of bring opposing reviews, and present their thoughts, which are going to be very self-serving, because obviously they're hoping that if they come in and offer suggestions, that they'll figure out a way to have Narberth as a borough help them get that parcel to do whatever project they're trying to do. But it is an interesting perspective to have not just our typical team writing the reviews of the code, but to have outside groups kind of review it independently.
that would obviously be part of that can create us like. What's you say as well, I mean, looking at affordable housing, look here at the chart. There are a lot of things, you look at site analysis, you look at financing options, you look at management of or affordable housing stock. Look at analysis of variance, I mean, a lot of different parts of that research that would go into it. And all the above, you look at it, who knows what people. But, okay.
Gets just to my point though, that's a longer term ongoing process. I think for meeting, to Jim's point, what we're recommending the council is their meeting coming up. I still think focus, and granted, it's out of our control, but it should still be downtown small business. It's sort of the immediate short-term need is kind of where I was going. But
Yeah, I mean, I think what Jennifer suggests is we just put that as a category. So that is the thing that we think. At the moment was 5 years. I'm from that thing. And we're gonna repeat that recommendation. So with that understood, then we're talking about what else, how else would be characterized.
yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to understand. That and within the Belmont County, sort of an important housing system.
We are, as a county, we are going to be engaging more master plan things, so it might be good to have that as an issue, but like an overarching issue, because this is we talked about this as like a 2-year plan in this section. So all of our planning priorities are kind of linked to election cycles. So that means we're reacting to whoever comes in, we're helping set the table, the plan for next year, so we're not doing one thing to another thing, for kind of overarching. So we could hit the downtown business district kind of first with some of our and then affordable housing, the whole span, but
Yeah, that's not gonna get it, but.
and then when the active transportation is done, we can hit on traffic, recovery. So.
It feels like. So business would be something that tackle quickly. Downtown business, and then. A little later, affordable housing but not long because we have lots of development potential that is latent right now. The 5A planning areas. Again, some of the issues may overlap. And then active transportation, when that's complete, you look at Montgomery Avenue traffic calm.
You could put together a calendar if you want to try to apply it to the year.
What's that?
You said this is for calendar year 25? Yeah.
Well, for the next
Year
20 months.
Yeah. Then we could see how it flows in the calendar.
And then, I don't know, so Tim, if that were the kind of general game plan, I think, don't you have a special contract for your work on the active transportation plan? Because that's just.
That's through the,
Okay, yeah.
both communities being contract communities,
Okay.
we're able to do things like that.
Because that's not a special, okay. So if you were to say, well, yeah, the active transportation plan is one of the active projects that you have that you're filling, being paid for through your ongoing planning consulting contract. What kind of capacity do you have to do any other kind of work for Northern Flatiron?
I mean, we can definitely start looking through the downtown development, like ideas, and just kind of start having a discussion about what opportunities there are. And
You mean like the 5A district?
well, we could both look at the planning district, but also engage with the, or say it correctly, the Industrial Development Authority, to figure out what powers it has in assisting the planning commission in its goals as well. Because I'm currently, as we speak, I've been also browsing through Pennsylvania law, trying to avoid an industrial development authority, like the true out now hours are. Which considering it's 60s law, it's very. But yeah, that'd be one of the things that we want to do is we want to engage with them. There is the recommendation that we can have our commerce department again to help out, but like we had the discussion when they were here in December or November. They are only 3 or 4 people, so they can't be everywhere, but they can definitely.
But it's not really, we kind of need to hire a real, special, like a real
Like a downtown manager.
specialist, yeah. I would wonder, like, could you help us, would you be able to start working on affordable housing and what are the other topics while you're finishing the transportation thing?
I mean, I like to joke that I'm always working on affordable housing, so, but it's more along the lines, yeah, like affordable housing happening continuously, but downtown heavy focus on first. And it just depends on what everybody, like I said, we have to have really a sit down discussion of what are opportunities, what can people brainstorm and think of. Like we're having this kind of right now, and taking my notes about different items, and we kind of really need to get some more details. And like I said, the big thing is the IDA, what things some of the local universities offer, and basically also there's going to have to be some kind of discussion with downtown business operators of what their pressure points are in either preventing success or why do they think some of the stores are empty or why some users just kind of get a baseline.
I think what we've always recommended, Commissioner Sobrero go and hire a very specialized downtown consultant to do that work.
All right.
I think there's someone who's kind of focused on that, solely as their work. But what I was asking is, the two of the other topics that are potential nearer term are, looking more comprehensively at the different affordable housing topics and also looking at the areas of the 5A district around Concord Avenue, which are just kind of a cross between development, urban design, housing. Those are 2 other potentials, like they're more like, well, one's like an area plan almost, and the other's more like a housing.
All right.
Are those, I mean, all
Well,
we do is we write a letter to council, then that's it. So, but are those, does that make sense to you? Is something okay. How do folks feel about that kind of resolution?
So we go. What council is gonna do, given our recommendation, is they're gonna consult their Ouija board, look at their tea leaves, and assign us what they want us to work on.
Right.
So we have no way of knowing, what they're gonna say. Any of the above things would be worth doing.
Right. I think from the conversation today, we can kind of pull together language that explains why each is important and the relative urgency, as you're saying, not the sort of strategy of prioritizing them. I think we can pull that together in the conversation.
So specifically regarding affordable housing, would that be treated as revamping or adding a section to the code that includes
That could be
locations for it, amenities that it would include? It's sort of like the green building ordinance, and that it would be incorporated into the code and into projects, and maybe special exceptions allowed for certain amounts of affordable housing for a project. And as someone was saying about maybe allowing smaller lot sizes or dividing up lots in special ways too. Also in reusing existing buildings that even aren't under the HARB purview. I mean, obviously under HARB, you can't just tear down a house and put up a bigger house. Supposedly, although I do worry about the precedent that 230 Haverford has set regarding allowing tearing down those structures. But I would be curious to know the process that allows affordable housing to be incorporated into it.
I think it depends on what type of affordable housing the borough is interested in pursuing. Because true affordable, like LIHTC credit housing, comes at a scale. So right now, like penciling out, the deal is usually 42 units. So to find a parcel that fits 42 units means we're either gonna have to allow a density increase or a height or both. You could also review it from like approachable affordable, which would be the lot sizes and the allowance of multiple units within a single structure, and kind of come at it from two different perspectives.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
And I mean, I personally, I think that would be great. too.
All those
Have
would have to be
allowances.
looked at.
Yeah, that year goal is kind of both the subsidized affordable and the, market affordable. To kind of see what Norbert's options are and what it.
But I think the subsidized affordable would have to go in certain areas.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be, have to be a new.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the idea of integrating affordable with any development, it's not just affordable housing, it's like, it's some affordable units within a structure,
I think the trends are going towards like mixed income. So you would have,
which is really nicer
yeah,
for
so
everybody.
larger scale apartment buildings would have, the 42-ish that fit.
And to do that, Heidi, what we need to understand is what Jennifer, like how this is designed to do.
I mean, I'd love to listen to your clients.
Yeah, they're willing to come in. They offered to come in tonight, and I was like, well, we gotta pick priorities. Yeah, Penrose is very interested, and then Michael had a conversation with the Walters group. The Walters group's focus is, the woman in Pennsylvania exclusively focuses on Montgomery, Bucks, Chester, and Delaware County.
Why don't you and Michael work on
So
That'd be great.
it?
And
Because we really are not, it's not our thing,
Yeah.
so we're all rubes when it comes to affordable.
But they're probably also interested in Lower Merion.
very,
So, I mean, the idea of looking at Montgomery Avenue, I think would be amazing. And fixing that whole strip at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's gonna be more people living there, you need to make it more walkable.
Right.
So,
I think the first priority is just a joint session to
yeah,
have a presentation to make sure that we're going about it in the same direction that council would like.
sounds great.
Right, well, I guess it's up to me to sort of go through these notes and see if I can craft a letter that expresses all this, and I'll send it around to you.
Lucky you.
All the luck, I
It's
just
all
wanted,
fun.
well, I wanted to, acknowledge that we have the golden opportunity to end the meeting. Well, there's still one digit in the hours.
That's all late, yes.
Still like a shot. Does everyone feel comfortable sort of seeing if I can summarize this all, take a look at it?
Be great, yeah.
All right, then, is there anything else?
Well, can we make that an agenda item?
I'm sorry.
Getting Jennifer's contacts in here.
Well, I think, we would be happy to have them here, but I think that we should ask whether it's better to have, like you said, like a joint meeting with council or just,
I'll speak with Michael this week.
Yeah.
And see if has a read on council.
yeah, unless we have other pressing business, we could ask them to come and,
They're happy to come
as
to
it may
next
not,
month.
so we should, if they want to object to inviting them to come in June, unless there's some other pressing.
Yeah, why not?
And of course, that's like, what do you think is the best route? Okay, well, is there any other, business that anyone wants to bring up? Otherwise, we have a motion to adjourn and then we crack out the.
I know we adjourn.
Wait.
Oh,
I was about to say, I will not be at the July meeting, whether or not it is held. I will be traveling, so likely Chloe will be making a return.
Okay, great, you, July, not June.
July.
Okay, all right. Well, you're not gonna be here, we definitely will be here. So, well, we'll see, it all depends on what business we have. Right? All right, so motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second, all in favor of adjourning? Thank you all very much.
Yeah.
And Ralph, I'm happy to talk with you about 301, rehash the history.